been in power for nearly a quarter of a century and is the longest-serving Russian president since Joseph Stalin. But how has Vladimir Putin managed it? And will he stay in power till 2036?
Listen to this.
How can you be ready for it? Are we really ready for nuclear war?
From the technical point of view, of course, we are ready.
We are technically ready. Now, Putin may be phrasing it differently, but there's no doubt as to what he's talking about. He's talking about nuclear weapons, and the threat is aimed at his adversaries, the West, led by the United States.
This threat comes after a second straight day of apparent Ukrainian strikes within Russia, but Russia does not show any signs of giving up on its assault, restating that Ukraine will eventually need to accept a deal on Russian terms.
An interview with Russian state television, the Russian leader described the US President Joe Biden as a veteran politician who fully understands the dangers of an escalation in tensions.
The United States announced that they were not going to send troops. We know what American troops are on the Russian territory. These are invaders. This is how we will treat it, even if they appear on the territory of Ukraine, and they understand this. I said that Biden is a representative of the traditional political school, and this is proved. But besides Biden, there are plenty of other specialists in the field of Russian-American relations and in the field of strategic deterrence. Therefore, I don't think that everything is rushing so head-on here, but we are ready for this.
Across Europe, leaders are calling Russia the greatest and most urgent threat facing the continent. Germany's intelligence chief warned recently that Putin would not hesitate to attack a NATO member. The alliance is scrambling to prepare for a direct military confrontation with Moscow.
Since Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine,
we are combat ready. We can deter, and if deterrence fails, we are ready to fight.
NATO militaries have been getting ready to fight.
All stations, Moscow movement.
January, the alliance launched Steadfast Defender 24, its largest military exercise since the Cold War.
The first part of Steadfast Defender 2024 is about getting things across the Atlantic, and then the second part is about trying to get stuff once it's arrived over to the central and eastern states.
More than 90,000 troops from all 32 NATO allies are taking part in the exercise. 50 naval assets will move across Europe. More than 80 air platforms and 1,000+ combat vehicles are also being deployed.
This is undertaken near the Russian border, let's call it, near the frontier line, to show the East, show Moscow that NATO means business.
Troops taking part in NATO's steadfast defense. The British government here has deployed some 20,000 soldiers from the Royal Navy, British Army, and Royal Air Force. The exercise will take place primarily along NATO's eastern flank, with particular focus on countries like Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania.
I think of all the NATO states, they are the ones who are the most aware of the potential threat that they face, and they have been for 30 years.
The exercise will test the alliance on its speed in moving massive numbers of troops and equipment across the lines to defend that eastern flank. Finland, which shares an 830-mile border with Russia, joined NATO in April 2023. Sweden became the 32nd member of the alliance this week. Both countries have troops deployed in the exercise. Last week, Swedish and Finnish Marines conducted amphibious operations from a U.S. Navy warship high above the Arctic Circle, honing their readiness skills.
This needs a lot of coordination so that we can work together, operate together in this complex environment.
Steadfast Defender is expected to last through May, aimed at showing that the alliance can defend all of its territory up to its borders with Russia.
President Biden, I'm announcing an emergency package of security assistance of $300 million worth of weapons and equipment to address some of Ukraine's pressing needs. This is possible because of unanticipated cost savings in contracts that DoD negotiated to replace equipment we've already sent to Ukraine through previous drawdowns. When we sent Ukraine weapons last year, we negotiated contracts to replenish those weapons in U.S. stockpiles. We budgeted the full amount of appropriated funds for those contracts. It turns out we negotiated well. Those contracts came in under budget, so we have a modest amount of funding available.
Think that saddling Ukraine with billions of dollars of foreign debt when it is trying to revive its economy, which ultimately is the best way for it to stand on its own feet, on 2 feet, and defend itself without aid from other countries, is an appropriate step at this time.
Retreat from Avika and their struggle to stave off further territorial losses in the past few weeks have exposed the erosion of Ukraine's military capabilities with the declining availability of external military aid. The assistance that is contemplated in the supplemental is absolutely critical to Ukraine's defense right now. And without that assistance, it is hard to imagine how Ukraine will be able to maintain the extremely hard-fought advances it has made against the Russians, especially given the sustained surge in Russian ammunition production and purchases from North Korea and Iran.
This emergency package that we're announcing contains a large tranche of artillery rounds and gimlers for the HIMARS. It is assistance that Ukraine desperately needs needs to hold the line against Russian attacks and to push back against the continuing Russian onslaught in the east and in other parts of Ukraine. This ammunition will keep Ukraine's guns firing for a period, but only a short period. It is nowhere near enough to meet Ukraine's battlefield needs, and it will not prevent Ukraine from running out of ammunition in the